Okay, our next speaker is Carl Lubsdorff from Solvitor, a technology consultancy, and he is working on Annotum, which I'm looking forward to hearing about. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you. The only thing better than doing a live technology demo is doing it as the last speaker of the day, so we'll look forward to that. Some of you may have seen some information about Annotum, so I'm going to go into the background of the product, why it was envisioned, and where we are right now with it, and then we'll finish with a demo. You're all familiar, much more familiar than I am with scientific publishing and the process. It can be a very long process, taking up to a year before information makes it out to people that they may need to use. And during the influenza pandemic, some people at PLOS, some people at NLM, some other folks were thinking, wouldn't it be great if we could reduce the 1 year to publication of important information about medical science research results and make it available more quickly and not have to wait a year to find out that you should wash your hands a lot more when, so you don't die of influenza. PLOS Currents was a publication based on Google Null. It has certain features, not just the fast turnaround of the review, but also articles are citable. There's a review process. It's a quicker process than the full peer review. It's more of a does this look scientifically valid? Was it done in a valid way? All the content is open access. Everything's archived at PubMed Central. And as Harold Varma said, this is to accelerate scientific discovery, to get the latest findings out more quickly. PLOS is hosted on Google Null. Some of you may be familiar with Google Null. It's an article writing and publishing service that Google provides. It has a lot of nice features for authoring. Some would say that the presentation is not the most rich of designs available, and it's somewhat inflexible in its design, although the information is certainly there and available. The workflow in PLOS Currents is a very simple process. An editor, really a lead reviewer, selects reviewers. They enter comments, basically a block of text and a rating, and the content is either approved or not, and when it's approved, it's published on Null, available on the web, and goes right into PubMed Central. The export of the content from Null is via XML. It's not really JATS. It's sort of a, I don't know what Jeff would say. It's a middle ground, Jeff quite charitably says. So it basically needs to, and this was before me, and I didn't produce that, but as you know, people mark up their text in different ways. They use heading styles. Sometimes they use bold and large text. Other times, there's a manual fix-up to the content, to the structure that has to happen when Jeff gets it. There's no way to import existing content. It was interesting when I heard some of the talks earlier today, and certainly during the panel discussion, everyone was talking about the output of JATS tags, but not as much about the importation of JATS content and the way of sharing information, as this is a sort of a lingua franca of research publications. Single source hosting is really a reference to the fact that Null is a platform hosted by Google. You can't change it. It's not open source. You can't change the workflow. You can't change the output and the formatting. It's a sort of a rigid thing. And what we've seen in the recent past is sometimes there are issues with it, and there's been some challenges in getting those issues resolved. So what's the objective of Annotum? Make a simple authoring system that makes it easy to use, easy to create scholarly articles based on JATS. Not really JATS, a subset of JATS, but a true subset. Out of scope for this release, replacing all other journals and all other issues, solving all the JATS issues. That's not part of 1.0. We're hoping 1.1 can tackle those. If anyone's interested in funding those, I'm more than interested to talk to you after the talk today. So what are we really saying here? We're trying to make peer-reviewed journals that can be produced online, written online, in a browser, allow people to work collaboratively, address some of the limitations of null, and have flexible hosting options. It should be free or cheap to host it. You should be able to export. And you shouldn't need a lot of technical skill to install, configure, operate, maintain it. So we looked at a lot of different approaches to what to base Annotum on. We looked at existing products. We looked at existing systems that do online publishing. Some of you are familiar with Open Journal Systems, OJS. People have written publishing systems in Drupal. Xstyles has a piece, certainly, in this workflow of enforcing conformance to a tag set. And there are various Word add-ins and other tools available. But when we really looked at WordPress as an option, we noticed, this is an incredibly rich resource of people who can help you with your WordPress site and contribute to functionality you may want to add. It's very simple to set up, install, and administer WordPress. It's, on last count, some 20% of the web is WordPress. So the adoption is quite broad. And the alternatives really at the end, either too expensive, too hard to use, too proprietary, or too limited in their scope to really provide a full publishing platform. We knew we had to add to the basic WordPress functionality, table editing, equations, citations, figures, not as robust as they need to be for scientific publications. And we needed to add the workflow, something similar to what we had with PLOS Currents. And finally, good presentation options, including JATS output. So the original development timeline basically saw us finishing development in June with a nice leisurely summer of beta testing, migration, a launch in August. It was a really great plan. So somewhere along the way, the 2-week sprints, you'll notice the little boxes that are numbered are supposed to be 2-week development sprints. They got longer as we went on. And the ones that were the longest were the ones where we were working on the editor and the XML output. It turned out that using an editor, a browser-based editor to create XML has some challenges to it. It also turns out that some web hosts have different versions of XML libraries compiled into their PHP core, which means bugs show up on certain hosts and not others. The one we found out about yesterday, which is fixed, is that browsers, when they see an opening p tag, paragraph tag in HTML, they really want to close it for you. And if they see another block level element come along, they close it. This causes problems in the markup. So found some workarounds for that. I have a great team called Crowd Favorite working on this code. But that's one way of saying there are some real challenges here. I expected this piece to be the most challenging, but we've made some really great progress. That said, I appreciate your indulgence and patience as we do the live demo. This is way past bleeding edge that we're showing you here today. The launch is expected in Q4. That would be 11:59 p.m. on December 31st. Oh, I did say 2011. Well, anyway, yeah, this is supposed to launch by Halloween. It'll be a free hosted theme on WordPress.com, the main site, and also available as a theme for your own, for you to install. There's also a standalone local version that we're packaging, which is based on a nice set of tools that let you run Apache, MySQL, and PHP on your local machine. I'll be running that here. The whole thing compresses down to about, it's small, 60 megabytes as a zip file, and you can install it for those of you who are technical and want to give it a try. So with that, I will just show you. So these are the, this is just, our code is hosted on GitHub. I'm just want to give you an appreciation for the bleeding edge nature of the demo you're about to see. These are the software changes and commits to the source code since lunch today. Changing template to be HTML4. So anyway, enough caveats with that. So this is a sample theme that comes with Annotum. This is running locally on my machine. There are 2 child themes available when you install Annotum. They have different look and feel. You can add other child themes, but simply by adding CSS. Some of the features, customizable menus, the heading can be a graphic. You have widgets on the side. These are just standard WordPress features. Take a look at an article. You notice we have a citation to this article. That citation won't do you much good because it's pointing to my local machine, but in theory, if this were on a publicly facing website, you could cite the article. I'm not going to click, everyone wants me to click that button, I bet, but we're not going to do that just yet because there's some other caveats. We have, some nice little mouse over effects. You can see the biography of the contributor. We have nice styles for figures. It's structured. This is all structured. And we also have different sections you can add. I'll just look at one other example. So we have some tables that you can add, and we'll do a sample of a table in just a moment. So to use Annotum, you simply log in as you would with any WordPress installation. And you have a dashboard. It lists the different publications and pieces of content on your site. This is all just standard WordPress stuff. Here's a list of articles. Articles are a custom post type within WordPress that Annotum provides. There are post pages. Posts are essentially blog posts. There are pages, which are more static content. And in an Annotum installation, there are articles. So we can open up an existing article and have a look at that. Now, I'm going to apologize a little bit for this screen because it's quite busy. I wanted to leave all the different pieces on the screen so they were visible. There is a functionality where this editing control in the toolbars will expand to fill the screen. We have not implemented that yet. Most modern browsers do, however, let you expand the size of this editing control. And you can see that it was already expanded somewhat when I opened this article. Another thing I'll point out, and this will be slightly experimental. How easy it is to see that. We'll try magnifying it. And the magnifying doesn't work on this presentation, so we're going to get rid of that. It might be a little hard to see, but if you look up, we'll try it on here. If you look up in the corner, you see a little gray text. It says section, title, P, label, caption, P. This is your style tags. This is telling you what you're doing in your article. And when you create a new section, it creates a section. The section has a title, and the title has text within it. And after that comes paragraphs full of text that contain certain tags. The same goes, that was an unexpected, that mouse doesn't control this computer. So, and then here's some table content, again, with a caption and a label and so on. So let's start a new article, see how that looks. By the way, if I'm working on an article and I don't really want to see the subtitle and the abstract, there are screen options. I can easily go in and say, don't show me that anymore. And then I just have my title and body. And we'll do a little text here. So here's some text, and we can preview that. So that's a pretty fast publication to the web. Now, this is not a published article. It hasn't been reviewed. If I choose in my publication settings, I can turn off the review process, and then that would have been a published article. I can turn off the workflow and just use this to push content out directly. Now we'll do the exciting part. So we can insert an image, and let's do this nice nebula. And in some cases, if the JPEG you're uploading has appropriate metadata within it, it captures that as the name. I can also put in the description was captured from the JPEG. And we'll just put in a little bit of extra text here. I'm really hoping these aren't, horribly offensive phrases in Latin. Just have a nice complete set of information here. And there we have our nice text. If I hit Control Enter here, I'm now in a new paragraph. Because of the graphic, it's hard to sort of see the beginning of the paragraph, but over on the side, there's a little P tag there. And then we can save and preview that. And sometimes the saving takes a long time. And when the saving takes a long time, we do it again. And then it takes less time. And here's our article with our graphic. Okay. The last thing I'm going to show in the article editing window is tables. So there was some discussion just a moment ago about tables. This is a new section. Currently, I believe the specification that we're using, the Kipling specification, doesn't permit very rich information in tables, but I think we need to talk about that because it actually looks beautiful when you put images and so forth in the tables. I don't know if that's syntactically correct, but it makes the articles look nice. The top row is tagged as table head and gets an appropriate style. And then we have some data. And we can save that and preview that. So, you can applaud now if you want. Just kidding. The only reason I say that is because the way that different browsers treat this content, I don't know if any of you have written code that has to deal with HTML in browsers. That's a particularly, and I didn't write the code, other people wrote the code, that's a particularly challenging piece of work to debug and to look at and get working properly. I don't think it's all that great, quite frankly. I think this UI has some challenges in terms of the writing tables. It's not Word. But if we remember that this is something that anyone can install for free and immediately publish articles that have this amount of rich content, I think that's an important thing to remember. So enough of that. Let's use some workflow features. One of the things we can do is we can invite co-authors to work with us. It knows the other people that are on this site. I can add another author. And if they happen to have an image in their profile, we can add that. And I'm now pretty much done with the editing I wanted to do. So now I'm ready to submit my article for the review process. The review process submission is clicking that button. So the article's now been submitted. Now, since I'm an editor here, I'm an admin of the system, I see these options about approve, request revisions, and so on. I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to log in and out. But if I were simply the author, it would just say preview, and I'd be awaiting for some review. So the next step is for me to add reviewers. And Anno Editor is our reviewer. Oh, it's already a reviewer. Okay. That's strange. So we'll just log out and become Anno Editor. Now, because I'm an editor, there's a little warning because I was just editing it. Because I'm an editor, I can make some changes to it, and I can also approve it, but that's not what I'm here to do. Instead, I'm here to sorry. So normally an editor would have hidden most of these boxes and would just be looking at the article itself, probably in another window, and this review box. Here I can enter some comments and make my recommendation. And I get a little feedback that the article, I can choose approve, reject, or request revisions. So I've now done my review. The reviews are complete. I'm going to log out and become the admin again. And now, one thing I'll mention is that before I do the approval, there's a email notification facility built into this product. I don't use it generally when I'm running on my local site because I'm sort of using it as a standalone application, but it will send an email every time something happens to the appropriate people. So although I do have to navigate to get to the article to open it up to do the review, as you just saw, in a live implementation, probably you'd have the notifications turned on and the editor would get an email that says, this article's, you've been added as a reviewer. You click on that and you would be taken straight to the article to do that. So now I'm back, I'm the admin. One of one reviews are complete. I can scroll down and see who did what to the article. So Anno editor approved it. I can also go down and see their comments. Except for some reason I don't see their comments. So we'll just breeze past that. And we'll approve this for publication. Now there's two steps with publication. There's approve and publish. Editors can't publish. And the folks at PLOS, Currents, wanted to have control by the publication staff over when and how things were published, but allow their lead reviewers, editors to take everything up to that final step. And so the last step is publish. And now we can view the article. And there's our article with the table. Oh, and I almost forgot. So this author is very lax, and the reviewers are all lax because the author didn't put any references in. So we better add some references. So this little, I'm going to get my cursor here. So I need to add some references. Now there's really three ways to add references. One is to put text in. One is to put in a Crossref DOI, and one is to put in a PubMed ID. So let's try a Crossref one. I happen to have one highlighted in this other window, but I'll use a different one. You need to have credentials on Crossref to do this, and you can enter those in the settings screen. It pulls that reference in. I can save that. I can do several of these at once. For example, if I want to do a PubMed ID, and we would recommend that people who are doing research, rather than simply choosing random references to insert in their document, actually use the references upon which their document was based. And then we can, we can insert a reference. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. And there's the reference, and those are two. Styling's not great on that, it's a little hard to see those. And right now, the references, the footnotes show up in the article, but not the list of references on the published article. But we do have a reference list down here. We've had some discussion about what to do about people who already have lists of existing references. One of the most vocal feedback from people who've seen these demos has been, I've already got all these references in my other tool, and how am I supposed to get them in here? And the answer is, well, you have to copy and paste them. That's not a very good answer. So we're looking at what's an appropriate format for importing those, perhaps writing a plugin that talks to Zotero or other tools and just pulls them all in. There's also not in this version things like sharing references among different articles. Each article stands alone. This is a similar set of functionality to what's in null today that we're trying to support. So, oh yeah, you want me to click that XML button probably. So, oh, what's that? No, let's not do that. Let's go to a real browser. Sorry, Windows guy. No, that's not even the right site. So here's our new article, and we can click that. So, yeah, so wrong audience, right. Who cares about the damn tables? So this is not quite right. Some of the markup isn't quite right at present. Until you publish an article, the contrib doesn't show up in the contrib group. We've had a little bit of back and forth about which elements, whether captions can contain, paragraph level elements or only C data or what else they can contain, and some things about displayed quotes and so on. So I think we have a little bit more discussion with Jeff to clean up some of that. But the fact is, I don't know, you guys tell me, is this right? So one way to tell if it's right, though, and what we like to do, now I told you that it's not quite perfect, so what I did was I've created a file that was output from Annotum, and I doctored it up a little bit to fix some of the tags so that it should all be right. And basically what I had to do was put in a contrib and remove a p tag here or there. So that's my doctored XML file. And I can go ahead and validate that. Is this working now? I hope so. Okay. Hey, no parsing errors. So now that's validated against the Kipling subset, but it is valid. So, this is a pretty interesting thing, and I'm going to just wax a little bit enthusiastic for a minute. When I went to create my article, my paper for this conference, I've been working on this project for a year. And I know everyone talks about it's kind of hard to create these tags, and we need tools and so on. I went to SSP, I went to other conferences, people talked about the tags. One of the things I didn't mention about Annotum is that it's free. A lot of the products that are out there that do a similar kind of thing to what Annotum does, when you go to a trade show and you go to the booth and you say, well, how much does it cost? They say, I don't know. We have to devise a custom solution for you. And that's fair because each publishing workflow is different and each company is different and people have to, have the right solution for them. But free is a lot simpler and a lot easier to understand than we have to devise a custom solution for you, okay? Nothing against proprietary software vendors, and they do a lot of help in this community and throughout the industry. But, so I sat down to create my article, and I thought, okay, well, I'll just download Xstyles, and I'll use that. It was the weekend. You have to talk to someone, which is fine. Probably I'll use it better if I talk to someone. Okay, I'll use the Microsoft Word add-in that was created by Microsoft that lets me create Jazz. Kind of doesn't work, or it didn't for me. Okay, maybe it was user error. We've seen here I've had all kinds of problems today. Probably it has to do with me. So I ended up installing Oxygen and writing code in an editor. And I write code all the time. I love editors. I have long discussions with my friends about text editors. Not the most friendly tool for people who are scientists or people who just want to write. And the idea that you can have something that's, yes, with its wrinkles, that's as easy as creating a blog post, you can create a scientific article that's appropriately marked up with structure, I think is a pretty exciting thing. So that's about all I have as terms of demonstrations today, but if people have questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Hi, Mike Egan, Cambridge University Press. Were some of the attributes just recently talked about in name element, etc., included in this for the capture of lang?
No.
etc.?
No, I mean, this is new. I mean, this is, I'll refer you to the code we just wrote today, but it could be extended, and it is it's going to be a bit of a challenge to modify this over time, which is why we wanted to go with a subset of the article elements. So multiple language articles probably would be something of a challenge, or multiple titles. So it is a subset.
Hi, Scott Deneen, OSA Journals. My colleague and I were wondering about the math functionality. You mentioned some limitations.
The limitation is that it's not implemented yet.
Okay.
I can show you the, this is an equation editor that Google's open sourced. It's the same editor that was on Null. It allows you to write LaTeX or use the UI to create LaTeX. You'll see if I attempt to use it. It's great at generating the LaTeX. It's not so great at giving you a preview. So that piece is not implemented yet.
So if authors had their own tech and were to paste it in, there are some issues with previewing it?
Generally, no, the previewing just hasn't been implemented. It's
Oh,
not
okay.
It ultimately will, work.
Right.
But if you go to Null today and create an equation, it all works fine. We were focused on the XML piece in the editor before we got to this. So you can just paste in text into this box if you've already got that. I probably, in some cases, for very complex equations, you'd have to redo it. Just as with, someone mentioned before about doing tables as GIFs, or you could do PNGs or whatever, doing a table as a graphic for very complex tables and complicated structure, you'd end up having to do that. The same might be true for some equations, but I think for the most part, this should work fine.
One other quick question. It occurred to me when I was looking at the table editor that if people could reliably, and maybe staff who are assisting the process, create tables through another process but import them into the system for preview, that might help with some of the fine-tuning that you couldn't do through that interface. Is that practical, or is that?
Possibly, although it's a limited tag. Right now, you can't even have P tags in table cells. It's a very limited structure that's permitted. But certainly, if you can, once we have the JATS import, the Kipling import functionality, you could edit your file with any tool you want and then import it.
Great. Thank you.
Kevin Hawkins from M Publishing at the University of Michigan Library. So this is great. I was wondering, in the WYSIWYG editor here, many such editors have a little HTML button as you view the code here. I can't quite see on the screen there, but
Absolutely not.
Can you
permitted.
view that? Or
Absolutely not permitted. I'm not joking.
Or the XML?
Absolutely
The JATS,
not.
right.
It's not permitted.
So
Because we're really, like, you can't even choose a font. We're really enforcing a very specific tag set, and you cannot go tweak the code.
So
By
right.
design.
So so even though I think you said they're on the left somewhere, I think the screen's just washing them out, but somewhere there's a way that you sort of shows you like the tag name that's being used for a particular chunk of content.
Right, so you have
In the editor.
section, title, P. It doesn't highlight, I'm sorry, it doesn't highlight.
Okay.
And
So-
look, I'm doing
no.
join me and.
Yeah, no, that's
It's a
great.
whole
I mean,
lot going on.
I was imagining they were there as you were saying them because you were indicating as much, and it seemed about right.
So right where that mouse pointer is the word very faint in gray. It says section. Right here where my mouse pointer is the word title. Right here is,
Right.
it's not a case of getting it bigger. Oh, wait, does this, oh, there we go. Now you can't see it. Oops.
Does that work?
No, you really can't see it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Come on up. I'll try
Right.
it on the laptop. Or go to,
It really is there.
Yeah. So it's all driven through the user interface with no ability for power users to switch to the XML and edit the JATs from there.
That's correct.
And oh, we could almost see it for a bit there.
It's coming. No, you can't see that. Okay, let's try that again. Yeah, the highlighting, that's...
So, but where I was kind of going with this was I was wondering whether the editor had any tolerance for pasting in, say, from Word
So
and trying to adapt things,
there is a paste from Word button.
right? Okay. Great, thanks.
It'll, when implemented,
Right.
it will take care of headings if they're marked as headings. That's, again, pretty, I'm not trying to make excuses here, pretty challenging to
Oh,
get to this
absolutely,
point. So it's a little bit limiting because people are used to using Word. And the biggest complaint people have about browser-based editors is that it's not Word. And when I created a content management system for the Motley Fool, Fool.com, in 1999, editors were really unhappy that they were not able to use their preferred editing tool to create articles. They were screaming about it. That tool was the AOL Mail client. These things change over time. So I think it's a 1.0 version. We're going to get as much functionality as we can, and one way around the limitations of this particular editor for a more power user crowd will be use Oxygen, use whatever you want, conform to the Kipling tag set, and then import the file.
Right, because you could import directly if you had JATs elsewhere.
Right, and so,
Right.
that's the thing. This tool can be used, sure, I can create my own little local installation of Annotum, and I can print up PDFs and put them on my coffee table in my office. I can have a little website, and I can send some XML to my friend who also does that. But I can also create a journal, export the XML to PubMed Central, which is what we're planning to do with Plus Currents, and have a whole set of collaborators. And if many people choose to use this tool, you can imagine an entire ecosystem of these products where people are exchanging information using JATs. And the inputs could come from other tools and other things.
Right. Thanks very much.
Yep.
If we do have Oxygen or Stylus Studios or XMetal or something on our desktops and want to feed this, where do we find the details on the Kipling subset?
Right there. Although I don't know if I'm allowed to show that yet. Is that okay? These guys, it's okay, right, Jeff?
Yeah, everybody in this room is my friend, so of course they can look at this.
That's going to change.
I'm not sure about the people out in TV land.
Can you say anything more about that subset? What it's for? How is it designed?
I said, Jeff, we need a subset of JATs to use for this tool. And Jeff said, use this.
Really, it was designed because Carl said we need to write JATs XML. So I handed him the blue DTD, and he said, "Whoa." It was designed. Really, we're just cutting things out of the article models to allow the tool to not worry about them.
Did you start with Pumpkin and
It's not related to authoring. It is a strict subset of 3.0 Blue. And if Carl takes, I'm not suggesting that you do this, but if you change the system ID in your fixed file to journal publishing 3.dtd, it should still be valid. Okay, well, if there are no more questions, I think we're at the end of the first day. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
So, a few things on tomorrow. If you have ordered a lunch and you're not going to be here tomorrow, please see someone at the front desk and cancel your lunch, or I'll have a lot of lunches. And it'll be very expensive for me. Please remember to bring back your name tags, because I've instructed people that anyone with name tags doesn't get snacks. On the snacks, we have plenty of cookies and things left over, so take them home to your significant others. Thank you very much for a great day, and see you tomorrow.